Very good.
Can you believe that?
No, there's a lot of things I'm having a hard time believing.
I probably, Tina, will introduce you as the newest, you're already a grandmother, but the newest grandmother in the room. Has anybody else had a grandchild in the last 2 days? If so, then you win. I'd like to call the meeting of the Hayden City Council to order. It is 5 o'clock on Tuesday, November 9th, 2021. We are located in the Hayden City Hall Council chambers. Roll call vote, please. Abby?
Council President Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Panabaker?
Yes.
And Councilmember DeLange?
Yes.
Tina Marie Busby, our newest grandmother. Would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any, I have one addition to the agenda, and that has to do with the artwork located in the council chambers, and it will simply be a comment. Are there any other additions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, we will move forward. The art that you see on the side, in the back, in the front, on the wall was provided by Hayden Meadows, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students. Their art teacher is Vern Harvey. It looks great, and we're very grateful for their efforts. I don't know how those guys did the flag interacting, which is super, and the ones at the Fed. So thank you to Hayden Meadows Elementary School and Vern Harvey in particular. 1A proclamation. Whereas the government of Hayden, Idaho celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 31.7 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees, and they are responsible for 65.1% of net new jobs created from 2000 to 2019. And whereas small businesses employ 47.1% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, 88% of U.S. consumers feel a personal commitment to support small businesses in the wake of the pandemic, and 92% of small business owners have pivoted the way they do business to stay open during the pandemic. Whereas 97% of small business Saturday shoppers recognize the impact they can make by shopping small, 85% of them also encourage friends, family to do so too. And whereas 56% of shoppers reported they shopped online with a small business on Small Business Saturday in 2020, and more than 50% of consumers who reported shopping small endorsed a local business on social media or shopped at a local business because of a social media recommendation. And whereas Hayden, Idaho supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now therefore, I, Stephen J. Griffiths, Mayor of Hayden, Idaho, do proclaim November 27th, 2021 Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Item number 2, consent calendar. 2A, approval of September 28th, 2021 City Council meeting minutes. Approval of October 26th, 2021 City Council meeting minutes. 2C, approval of Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board wastewater treatment plant facility upgrades payment request. 2D, approval of Barry and Darlene Brackett deferred improvement agreement. E, acceptance of Barry and Darlene Brackett dedication of right-of-way and grant of easement. F, approval of update to the employee manual, adding Juneteenth as a holiday. 2G, approval of Michael Thayer and Randy McIntyre to the Hayden Urban Renewal Agency Board. H, approval of Brantley Estates final plat. I, approval of Hance Estates final plat. J, approval of 2022 Hayden Days Entertainment Agreement with Jim Lean of the Rhythm Dogs. K, acceptance of suite right-of-way dedication and grant of utility easement. L, approval of additional services agreement with Welch Comer Engineers, Inc. M, approval of Rebecca Donahoe's appointment to the Arts Commission. N, ratification of October payroll. And O, bills for payment. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar as read?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just one question, Mayor, and this is probably for Sandy. I see Sandy's online there. I'm looking on page 10 of 27, and the vendor is Kootenai County, and what my question is, it says that it's for public transportation, $11,930. What is that for, and is that a payment that is made quarterly, annually, twice a year?
It's an annual payment that's made for our portion of public transportation.
So is that CityLink then?
Let's see.
Yes.
Okay,
Let's see.
all right. I didn't see CityLink, so that's why I was asking. Thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome.
Sandy, CityLink is not an entity to make payment to, correct? It's an offshoot of the county transportation fund, so that would be the reason it wasn't an omission. So, any other questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Panbaker?
Yes.
Council President Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember DeLange?
Yes.
Thank you. Visitor public comment, Tina Marie Busby. Tina, if you'll go to the stand, state your name and address, please.
Tina Busby, can you hear me?
Yes.
9033 North Cuff Road, Hayden. And today I'm talking about the 2040 Comprehensive Plan and how it has a little discrepancy with how things, or seems to have one that might need some clarification. I'm going to read so I can get through it in 5 minutes. In this newsletter, put out by you guys, it has an article titled The 2040 Comprehensive Plan. The chain of events that it does detail does document what happened with the 2040 plan. Next, the article accurately represented that there were citizens that had concerns that they voiced about through different avenues about the 2040 plan. As a result of the public outcry, the council took certain steps that I totally approve of so that the situation could be readdressed, reconsidered, with more information and consideration. Thank you. The first of the two steps in the article addresses density for newly zoned properties. And in that step, there is an acknowledgement made that has single-family homes will still be the primary residential land use in Hayden, close quote. The second of the two steps in the article was to withdraw the city-initiated zone map amendment and reinstate the former standards for a year. This shifted the zone change initiation to the property owners, and that was a great relief to the citizens of Hayden with all of our concerns. Gives us that time to try to communicate what our desires are, and hopefully we can get on the same page. I don't know what the plan is, as far as an agenda to handle that. The newsletter describes the future land use map versus the current city zoning map and states that the future land use map is depicting the future possible zoning, because now it's being reevaluated, which is presumably going to be worked through over that period of a year. Now, the amendments are supposed to be on the back burner. I'm not saying for individual requests or anything, and I'm not addressing any individual properties here. The newsletter goes on to state that the current zoning map has the zoning designations, in quotes, allowed in the zones and the design standards which must be followed. The comprehensive plan, this is also in quotes, did not change the zoning map at this time because it's being considered. Now, what I've noticed in my observations of what's going on with planning and zoning is there seems to be a disconnect into what this says and how they are operating. And I won't mention any particular property, but there is an absolute weight being given to the 2040 plan over the existing zoning. And I wanted to bring that to your attention in hopes that there could be a resolution, because as it is, it puts the citizens in an awkward state, because we're watching the 2040 plan as if it is gung-ho in one setting, and then in another setting, we got time, we'll work it out. Anyway, so I think I've covered it all. I think I actually did it in under my 5 minutes. So if you have any questions.
Thank you. Can't ask you, Chris. Well done.
Thank you.
And what's the only addition or changes in her opinion? That was your opinion.
Yes.
I just want to make sure.
She didn't have any.
You didn't, no.
Particular project.
It was just that one little comment, so we're okay.
Okay.
You did well. Dowd.
Good afternoon or evening. My name is Dowd Boss. I live at 627 East Lacey Avenue here in Hayden. My wife and I moved here approximately 4 years ago from California, and we were excited to come here. And I grew up in Southern California in a small town and watched a rural town become brick and mortar in my first 28 years of life. So I left, moved to a Northern California city called Citrus Heights, California, which was also rural. Had dirt roads, had farmland, ranches, and after 28 years became brick and mortar. I'm witnessing that here in Hayden today. I see no regard to when a builder buys a piece of land, they just pretty much get carte blanche, it seems to me. I came to meetings a couple of years ago, expressed my concern then about a number of properties that were built near my neighborhood, but I continue to see this. So I'd like to just read a quick statement. This is the Hayden Vision Statement. It says, Hayden is a regionally connected city with a small town feel, defined by reasonable growth and planning. The city maintains strong systems that align with the values of its citizens. And I can keep going, but I'll be honest, I don't see that. I walk around this town and I talk to a lot of people. I'm in sales, that's what I do, I talk to people. No one's happy with what's going on. And last week on November 2nd, you saw that with the election, where 2 city council members lost their seats, with close to 70% of the people voting against them. And it wasn't personal, it's about what you're doing. And that needs to come to a stop. And I'm hoping this city council puts everything on hold until the next city council can come together with the new members and we can reevaluate the zoning, the planning, and just throw the plan out the door and start over. I work for a large corporation and we set long-term goals, short-term, and if a long-term goal isn't going well, you reevaluate, you step back, you correct it, and then you move forward. And that's what this city needs to do. Thank you.
Thank you. 4A, action item, authorization to allocate funds received through the National Opioid Settlement to Panhandle Health District.
Didn't turn in a form.
You didn't turn in a form, but thank you, ma'am. No, you have to turn in a form before you come. This is not your first, no, honest.
Well, where's the form?
When you walked in, this isn't your first rodeo.
Signed it. Now what do I do? Here, fill this out. Okay, this is America.
By golly. Oh, gee. It still is America, isn't it? By the way, we're good sometimes. It's nice to see you again.
How's that? Close?
Consistent. Go ahead. Please state your name and address.
I'm Nancy Sue Wallace, 2345 East Par Harbor Road, Hayden Lake, Idaho.
May I go on, Mayor, or?
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm here to publicly thank Dick and Jerry for all the work they have done in the last 30 years. As you know, I spent 10 years on the Coeur d'Alene City Council, and I worked with them then, and I've worked with them since then. And no one realizes how much Jerry and Dick have done for this community. Jerry is always consistent and always has an even keel. Dick, on the other hand, but I really appreciate what you've done. And I appreciate in Hayden the work you spent on the public art and the Urban Renewal Agency. So on that behalf, and you know I love to support local, so I have a gift certificate here for both of you. Because when you are at home sitting on your laurels, I want you to get off that and get some fabulous music and high cholesterol. So I've got gift certificates for Killer Burger.
You can't, Nancy Sue, you're phenomenal. What?
Under $50.
Is it under $50?
Got to be under $50. Or you got to give them to them after they're no longer public
It's under
officials.
$50.
That's perfect.
Then it's allowed.
Thank you so much.
Rules, rules,
Don't blame me,
rules.
blame the legislature.
That's a state.
That's a state code.
That's a state code.
Yeah, right, I'm kidding.
Let the record show that I do not think that that was accidental. Nancy Sue has served our city for many, many years. She started when she was 6, so probably for the last 30 years. And it's nice to see her. She has served an Urban Renewal Arts Commission.
That's all I need.
And that's just in Hayden. So nice to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have fun with the rest of your meeting. I'm going home.
Say hi to Mark. Can we now move Nancy Sue to item 4A?
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. Authorization to allocate funds received through the National Opioid Settlement to Panhandle Health District. Brett, are you leading this?
Yeah, it's just an update. This is a quick one. We had received a letter since our last meeting on the amount that the city would get in the settlement. It's when they sent our allocation, if we computed it correctly, it's between $2,000 and $5,000. So it's really low. It's not really worth filling out all the documents, et cetera, for the city to do it, but we can allocate our funds to another agency, and so we were suggesting that we allocate to our funds to the health district, Panhandle Health District, so that they can use it to combat opioid abuse. So if we had received them, then we would have had to use those funds to combat opioid abuse. So
The only question was the sheriff. Were we?
That would be up to you. They're going to receive some of their own funds as well. We thought it was a larger amount. It's listed, we're suggesting to give it to the Panhandle Health District on the state level.
The county's also going to receive opioid settlement funds.
So, okay.
Yep, the counties and cities, and for cities, it's over 10,000 residents. So that's why we meet that limit. But the county will also receive funds. Yep.
We were trying to confirm with the state the amount that we computed. We received a letter. 3 of us computed it, and we think we're correct with what they've given us. If it's above the amount that we mentioned, we'll bring it back. But we really had to make a decision for the 1st of December to decide what we were going to do. And it really makes probably the most sense for us just to send it off to the Panhandle Health District.
It's from Lawrence.
So,
Go ahead.
Did you want to see the amounts?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was
I
going.
figured. Exhibit B.
Because I thought as I read it, it was an approximation, so. That's okay.
So Exhibit B, this shows the percentage that the city's
And that's
gonna
what?
get. And then if you go to the front page, it says.
Then we're okay.
what we're asking is just a motion to authorize to give the city's settle amount to the Panhandle Health District.
Just for the record, and that's what Abby knew where we were going. Hayden City, Idaho is how it's listed with the Attorney General's office, and it is .0047132146146%.
Percent. When you take that and multiply it by
So
119
that's what I
million.
mean, so it's.
It's nothing, it's like
It's not,
2,000.
it's not very
It's-
much.
So it is not 1%, it is not 1/10%, it's not 1/100%, it's 4/1000%.
Yes.
So, for all those math majors. So 4, 10, 100,000, 47, 10,000.
That we would have to use under authorized uses to combat
Correct.
opioid uses. So that's the other part of it that's
Okay.
difficult, is all the money would have to go to.
And do you need a motion for that
Yeah,
allocation?
just a motion to authorize for the city to,
First-
you to sign.
Does anyone have questions for Brett? Any member of the council? Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation to authorize allocation to the Panhandle Health District?
Yes. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Council President Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember Delang?
Yes.
Councilmember Roeder?
Yes.
And Councilmember Panabaker?
Yes.
Thank you. 4B, Handshake Productions, 2021 Summer Concert Series Review and 2022 Summer Concert Series.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. I'm here today to ask the city.
Who are you? For the,
I'm Chris Kugamus
Thank
with
you.
Handshake Productions.
and you have an address?
I do.
Please share it.
822 East Wallace Avenue, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Thank you, Chris. Nice to have you here. The time is yours.
My name is Chris Kugamus, and I have been producing the Hayden Concert Series since it started in the year 2000. And I'm here today to ask the city of Hayden to contribute to the 2022 Hayden Concert Series. The 2021 Hayden Concert Series was a success despite the heat and the smoke. Audiences of up to 400 people were treated to concerts featuring rock and roll, blues, country, big band, swing, and more. The dance floor was occupied by all ages. We did a demonstration of a line dance called Cupid Shuffle, and we had about 100 people participating in that. For the 2022 Hayden Concert Series, I'm asking the city of Hayden to contribute $7,200 for 6 concerts. I will fundraise the balance needed by securing sponsors. Thank you for any consideration that you give this request.
Chris, you're going to have some questions, and I'll let council move forward. Council, do you have any questions for Chris, please? Chris, total budget for the year, please. What is your total cost? You're asking the city for $7,200. What is your total budget for the year?
Well, I always try to double that.
What was last year's budget?
Well, last year was the first year I ever had a really, really good year, and it was close to $19,000.
Expense, not revenue. So you, with the city of Hayden and your sponsors, you were able to raise $19,000?
Correct.
Okay, that was where we were going.
But it's usually about double the $7,200 that the city contributes.
And what is your cost associated with putting all the series together?
I would say
last year?
I'd say about $7,200.
Okay, so last year, and this is just business for a while as we talk about it. So your revenues were approximately $19,000 and your expenses were approximately $7,200.
Yes.
So $12,000 went to time and effort that you put in to be able to put this together. Is that a fair approximation?
Yes.
Okay. How many, I know that there were 400 at some events. What do you think was the total attendance for all 6 events? And you're not on the record, so there's no Bible record.
275.
Total. I got to make sure.
For the year?
Correct.
6 times 275 is
1,200, 1,300, 1,400,
1,500.
1,500. Okay. So, and it's okay that we address the fact that Marilyn and Steve Griffiths might have gone to 2 of them, and somebody else might have gone to 4 of them or something, but
Correct.
average was about 275
Yes.
per event, 6 events.
Correct.
Okay. I do want to make sure that I get a lot of feedback and on lots of issues as mayor. And the only negative, I probably received, I don't know, 50 comments associated with what you do and what the city of Hayden did in putting forward or in sponsoring those events. And 99% are unbelievably positive that the citizens have an opportunity to be able to get out to do things, that the events are eclectic, so that you do have big band, we do have other things, so people's tastes in music and other things are addressed. So thank you on behalf of the citizens of Hayden that have been able to talk to me, and I'm sure council members have some of those same feelings. So we thank you for that. Do we have a motion? What is in the budget? We've already approved the budget.
Yeah, I was going to say, we budgeted the 7,200.
Okay.
We kept it constant from last year, actually the last 2 years.
And we've approved that budget.
And we've approved that budget, so it is in.
So you're welcome. It's already done.
My work is done here.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much.
We wanted to make you, though, earn it a little bit. 2022, you didn't address, what do you anticipate moving forward for your concert series? Is it going to be consistent with 2021?
As far as the actual kind of music will be there, well, we'll start out with the big band orchestra. Those always do well there. I'm going to try to bring some Irish music out there. There'll be country, there'll be rock and roll. I would like to find some reggae, but it's not as available as it used to be around here. And something very eclectic. I'd like to get the steel drum band back here, but they're in Washington and they've been reluctant to come across the border this last couple of years with the pandemic.
Okay. Thank you again. Any other comments for Chris?
Thank you.
Chris,
All right.
thank you.
Thanks, folks.
You bet. 4C, action item PZE-21-0203, Quails Next Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map and Zone Map Amendment. Donna.
Boy, this room gets quiet when I come up here. Good heavens.
I saw workplace violence. It distracted me.
It's not a public hearing.
On your desktop.
That was our training for last week.
This was rough.
So before I start, in the back of the room are flow charts that talk about the comprehensive plan. I think you've got one. The comprehensive plan and zone map amendment process, and it talks about the standards of approval. So that's for the audience, just FYI, those are back there.
Thank you for putting this together, by the way.
Welcome. So tonight we're here to look at 2 processes And the public meeting kind of encapsulates both of those, but it'll be two action item decision, one on the comprehensive plan amendment and one on the zone map amendment. So this is known as the Quails Nest Comprehensive Plan and Zone Map Amendment for PZE 210203. Just as some background for the project, in May of 2021, we know that we sent out those lovely letters that, got everybody good and concerned. And then in June, we received a minor subdivision on this property, and the preliminary plat is currently in process. Project is on a commercially zoned piece of property, and there are no minimum lot sizes in a commercially zoned piece of property, so they kind of started that process trying to figure out what the city was doing with the citywide zone map amendment. So the existing conditions are one lot. It's on 3.596 acres, and existing, there is a single-family residential structure at the throat of the lot. Also, it's important to note that this is one lot of two that were part of the North Government Way Commercial Park minor subdivision, which had some deferred improvements that would occur on both lots when one lot developed. So it's a kind of a quirky thing. So the request for this piece of property, this large piece of property with that small residential structure in the front, and this piece of property and this piece of property are both part of that two-lot North Government Way, that if something happens with one lot, you have to do some work with the other lot as well as part of that subdivision requirement. The request is for to change this zone from the commercial zone that it has today to mixed residential. But the future land use map that was adopted as part of the comprehensive plan shows this as being mixed use. So it's also a comprehensive plan map amendment from mixed use to mixed residential. Those are the two parts. The development team applicant is Olson Engineering, and the owner of the property is Quails Nest LLC. In the memo that the council received, you have the full record. That includes the staff review, the written recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission, all public agency comments, all public comments, and the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. So this is a summary of that kind of information, hopefully in short. So as part of the analysis, the commission shall consider the existing zoning district or regulations and may recommend approval, conditional approval, modification, or denial of the proposal, or the commission may defer action until the completion of such studies or plans as may be necessary to determine the advisability of the proposal. So, the 2040 comprehensive plan showed this property as mixed use, and as such, the Imagine Hayden plans all model the density average of 14 dwelling units per acre. The proposed amendment, if it's approved, would change the future land use designation to mixed residential, which was modeled at 7 dwelling units per acre, and therefore staff did not determine that additional studies were required because the intensity is lower. City Council may impose conditions upon rezoning where such conditions are required to ensure that the proposed use of the area is consistent with community needs and its public health, safety, and general welfare. The Planning and Zoning Commission may recommend conditions upon rezoning for the City Council's consideration. The City Planning and Zoning Commission did not recommend any conditions of approval for the zoning request. The applicant's narrative says the development team believes strongly that the proposed zone map amendment is aligned with the city's long-range vision and will benefit a vast number of community members that are currently struggling to gain entry into the housing market. Amendment to the zoning map and zone text shall be in accordance with the future land use map and the goals and policies found in the Hayden Comprehensive Plan. So As you can see, the project is zoned mixed, or shown with a future land use of mixed use. So to get to a zone map amendment, that's why we would also have to look at that comprehensive plan amendment to mixed residential. So looking at those two comprehensive land use types, mixed use allows for both residential multifamily and commercial land use types, creating a flexible environment for development with fewer restrictions on structure types and densities. And mixed residential can accommodate a range of residential structures, including single-family, two-family, and three-family units, as well as accessory dwelling units. So land use regulations will be applied in ways that respect public needs, minimize conflicts with nearby land uses, and protect the private property rights of landowners. So going back to this map, the future land use map shows the property to the east as being mixed residential. So that would be kind of an extension of that mixed residential. And the properties to the north on Jaden Court, and then also down in the Avery Estates subdivision, are duplexes and kind of that multifamily component. So just kind of how it all fits. So the zone map amendment requires that we look at the goals, policies, and actions, or goals, policies, and then we can also look at actions. Those were in the staff review, of about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 goals of the city, and then about 6 policies of the city, and those were attached in your staff reviews as appendixes to the back with all of the goals and policies within the comprehensive plan. These are the ones that staff identified that were addressed or affect these 2 land use actions, but because all of them are included in a staff review, you may have found others that would also apply. Amendment to the zoning map and zone text shall align with the zone district's purpose and intent. So in the zone today, it's zoned commercial, and that provides for most types of businesses, as well as for retail and wholesale sales and service. Mixed use, as a zone designation, provides for both residential, multifamily, and commercial land use types, creating a flexible environment for either one or the other, or both. And mixed residential provides for a range of residential structures, including single-family, two-family, and three-family dwelling units, as well as accessory dwelling units on those individual lots. Again, here it is kind of blown up closer. This is a single-family residence. These are all duplexes. Wyoming Estates First Edition was approved to have duplexes on, lost my mouse, on this piece of property as well. And so they're looking for that mixed residential to potentially put twin homes on those lots, more consistent with the properties to the east. So with respect to infrastructure, since they've started the process of a minor subdivision, will serve letters were received for both sewer and water as part of the minor subdivision. Dry utilities shall be installed underground as part of any future development. Dedications of right-of-way will happen at the time of future plat. And turnaround and parking provided would meet the Northern Lakes Fire Protection District and the city's requirements and standards. With respect to public agency and public comments, Avondale Irrigation District had no additional comments beyond their will serve. Coeur d'Alene Airport requested an navigation easement. Northern Lakes Fire Protection District had comments related to site development. And the public comments that were attached to the memo to the commission and also part of the memo to the city council, there were 2 folks that were opposed. So that kind of gives you a bigger global kind of view of the subject site and the neighbors. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the future land use amendment from the 2040 comprehensive plan from mixed use to mixed residential. And the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the zone map amendment from commercial to mixed residential. And the vote for both recommendations was unanimous from the commission. Those are the 4 standards of approval. And therefore, the city council may approve with conditions, or deny the future land use map amendment from mixed use to mixed residential, or the city council may approve with conditions, or deny the zone map subsequent to that, a direction related to the future land use map.
And I'll just chime in, Donna mentioned it at the beginning, but the consideration of a land use map, future land use map amendment needs to be taken first before the zone map, which makes sense, right? Because if you don't approve the future land use map amendment, then the zone map amendment's not gonna make sense because it won't be in accordance with the future land use map. So those were 2 considerations taken in that order from the Planning and Zoning Commission. There's actually guidance from the Idaho Supreme Court on that as well, so that consideration goes first, which is why it's listed in that order.
Since the future land use map is simply future, and we have nothing zoned mixed use, right? Is there anything in the city?
There's nothing currently zoned.
Done, so why would we do that?
Because when we look at rezoning property, one of our standards of approval in our city code, as well as the Local Land Use Planning Act, states that a consideration for a rezone is to be in accordance with the comprehensive plan. Our comprehensive plan designates that area as mixed use. They are requesting mixed residential. So it wouldn't be in accordance with the comprehensive plan. In order to make it their request in line with the comprehensive plan, it needs a comprehensive plan amendment, the future land use map amendment, where we designate that area.
I have to be careful of that, okay.
And it's a down zone, as Donna mentioned, it's a less intense use. So even commercial or mixed residential from commercial, same thing, is also a lesser intense use.
Which is one of the questions that I was gonna ask, so, okay.
Yeah, and that's why she, Donna mentioned that on the map about trying to, the surrounding areas, about what's adjacent to it and knowing those uses. That's in the minutes from the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, excuse me. One of the commissioners, it may have been Commissioner Davis, asked about, wouldn't this just be an island if we approved it just in the purple is the mixed use? Isn't this just gonna be yellow, or excuse me, orange in a sea of purple? And no, it's not, because on the other side of the property, this property to the east, it's adjacent to mixed residential already, and there's mixed residential uses around it. Just noting that was the explanation for that no, it wouldn't be an island. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, but I'm back to, if one doesn't exist,
So we don't have it, no, we don't have anything zoned mixed use today.
correct?
No property is designated that zone on our zone map today. A request to do a zone map amendment, one of our standards of approval, I think it's number 3. And also Idaho Code 67-6511 talks about this request to rezone property be in accordance with the comprehensive plan. Their request is to go from commercial to mixed residential. But then when we do a comprehensive plan analysis, it's not in accordance with the comprehensive plan, because our comprehensive plan, as you can see on the screen, designates that land to be mixed use. So the applicant is requesting 2 things. One, an amendment to the future land use map to downzone from mixed use to mixed residential, which is just right next to it, that other color, which is supposed to be orange, but I think it kind of looks yellow, but right there, yeah, where the mouse is, that's mixed residential. Second to that, to rezone the property from what is today commercial to mixed residential.
And if we throw everything away and it's commercial, Donna, one of the questions is, what options does that individual have to build? What constraints
They can't build residential at all in
But
commercial.
can they do
They can only
multifamily?
They can't do residential at all in commercial.
Multifamily.
Multifamily or
I'm
single family.
I'm just trying to be clear.
We used to allow
Exactly.
multifamily by special use permit, which is now, we've changed to conditional use permit. We used to allow multifamily by special use permit in the commercial zone. The majority of the city's multifamily today exists in commercial zoning by special use permit.
Right.
So when we did the code amendments, I believe in April, that was one of the changes, was we no longer allow any residential unit at all in commercial. We've removed the special use permit provision.
Which I wanted to make sure everybody understood.
So I'd like to ask a question.
Please, I was going to ask,
Oh, sorry.
Please.
My question is, basically, with the passage of the 2040 comprehensive plan, it's opened the door up to do these kinds of zone changes.
You could always do a comprehensive plan map amendment and a zone map amendment. That was always allowed under any comprehensive plan. If you were proposing to change a zone that was not in accordance with the comprehensive plan, you could do that amendment.
Right,
So
but if
that's
we-
always been allowed. It's
If we had not
new.
passed the 2040 comprehensive plan, we wouldn't have this new zone, which we wouldn't be able to do this, correct?
You couldn't request mixed residential, that's correct.
So it opened the door to allow this, and probably other properties within the city too, to do this, correct?
Potentially.
But yeah, the process to request it has always existed. Our 2040 comprehensive plan didn't change it, and it doesn't impact the state code on it. The process is always there. And I was just gonna say, I don't remember what the 2008 comprehensive plan would have designated this. No, that's the
Commercial.
zone map amendment, those are different, that's the current
Commercial.
zoning, yeah.
it was commercial.
But you could do
Whatever.
it especially.
Oh,
Jeremy,
right,
you
that's
got it
right,
there.
it was commercial, but we allowed multifamily by special use, that's right.
Yeah.
And that's where the
But the
change.
request here is for mixed residential, which is single-family, duplex, cottage, townhome, twin home. They're proposing a twin home
Right.
solution. That's what they're proposing.
And
which
from-
is single-family, which would not have been allowed in the commercial code under the old, I hate this old new, but we're there. So it would not have been allowed under the old commercial, which only allowed for multifamily. They would have still been here doing a comp plan amendment from the commercial to residential multifamily to allow for what they're doing. So we would be exactly in the same place, just different zone
But see, and there's
designations to do
there's the
same thing.
differential, I mean, that's an important piece, is that the only other option in commercial would have been multifamily with special use.
Which
And
is 5 or over, right?
Which is, yeah,
Never over.
three or more.
3 or more.
More than three, that's what it is, fourplexes. So that's not what.
And
they-
that would have been 12 density, correct?
Depended on
the
where it
old-
landed in the,
In the old, I mean, we're going to do old and new, if you're going to play old and new.
don't know.
Old and
Old,
new had a density guide.
that's what I'm at. So we're okay, and 12 was the minimum?
I don't know where that landed
Yeah,
on this map. 'cause I'm
the
not
old,
looking at that.
our 2008 comprehensive plan had a shading of densities of low, medium, high.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the low was in the 12s. How am I doing? So as we move to that, this changes it to 7. Correct? For clarification.
6 to 8. Yeah.
Fine, so. Okay, Councilmember Roder, you had the floor. I didn't mean to take it away. Do you have additional
Oh,
questions?
just one more, I just, because you said they have the proposal is for twin homes, and I'm reading the request, summary of request on page 1. It says that the goal of the project is to construct 14 twin homes, townhouses to create 28 single-family dwellings. So is that a goal or a proposal, or is that cast in concrete? That's what they want.
That's what they want. And this is the avenue to get them there.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Donna? Okay, Jerry and then Roger.
Donna,
I'm seeing in our information that there was a proposed private road. Can you show where that might be?
Well, in the minor subdivision that we've been kind of working through that is still in the process, they would put a public road that would go through the property on the northern side because that, width is so narrow up there. And then they had a proposal to bring a private road kind of as a loop road through here. But they've also kind of redrafted that a bit and they think they can get that to be a public road as well. So if they do decide that it's going to remain a private road, that would come before council for approval before the minor subdivision could be approved.
And is the only access out on Government Way?
It is today, but again, this property to the north is to develop and they have an extension in their approved plat that would go south. So we fully anticipate that when this property develops at some point in the future that those two roads would connect.
Okay, thank you.
Dawn, is there intent, in what I'm reading here, can go either way. Is there intent to sell these or to rent them? Do you know?
They're individually owned twin homes, so they
Okay.
are individually owned properties.
Yeah, thank you. I should ask the question differently.
Planning and zoning minutes, I believe you can read them, but they answered a similar question from one of the commissioners, basically stated that they were going to put language in their CCNRs that they would be remaining to be single-family homes or they'd have to sell back to the property owner or something, but that's between them and their CCNRs. Their intent is for them to be single-owned, not rented.
Okay, thank you.
Donna, when somebody brings this forward to you, what is the process from pre-development through planning and zoning? I mean, what was the discussion and how was that, it's okay to take a moment from an education standpoint?
So folks come in, we have pre-development meetings all days on Wednesdays, pretty much from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. They come in with an idea. We take their idea and look at it from a planning perspective, and engineering requirements, what they're allowed to do, what they're required to do, the infrastructure they're required to put in the ground. And then they go back and try to make that all fit on the property. And we might have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or more pre-development meetings with an applicant as they're trying to work through various possible ways to get projects to fit on their site. We say no a good chunk of the time.
Do you have anything that you give to them? A packet of information that they have to address?
We have pre-development notes that we give to every applicant. They're emailed out to their design professionals and the owner of the property. They have all of our contact information. They get sent to the fire department at the same time because almost every project requires the fire department's participation in the decisions of the subdivisions and non-residential site plans. We include large projects get sent to the various school districts as well. Hey, this project's coming forward. So all of our contact information's on that front cover. They start off as a base of 22 pages. Generally, they're closer to 40, probably, plus or minus. I'm looking at people in the audience that get these things, probably closer to 40 pages. They have everything from our fee schedule to will serve letters, request letters, to the navigation easements that the airport requires, Panhandle Health District forms that they require, record drawings that they get for where the sewer's at so they can figure out how to get the sewer from their project to a sewer line. They have our standard typical sections for streets. They have private roads. They have private road copies of private road code. So lots and lots and lots of information. Then they take that back and they massage it and then they come back and try to qualify or quantify that information. And it's generally probably anywhere between 30 days and longer before they take that pre-development information and actually submit an application. Then any public hearing process takes between 35 and 45 days from the date of the application to get in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission for a public hearing. That process includes agency notices, a staff review. The staff review agency notices, and the staff review might find some huge, red flag, like, oh, you need a private road, we missed that, or something that needs to be corrected in the process. Then we notice the public through the newspaper, public notices, as well as 6 or 7 other media outlets that we send those notices to. We notice the adjacent properties within generally 300 feet of a project site. We post the project sign, big signboard. Then we have public hearing with planning and zoning. In the case of zone map amendments and subdivisions and planned unit developments, those are public hearings with planning and zoning. And 2 weeks later, they get a written recommendation that gets approved by planning and zoning, and the minutes are approved. And then with a public meeting with city council, we have to kind of figure out how that fits, because we work really hard at not having more than 2 or 3 land use actions on any calendar of either planning and zoning or city council, because it's just a lot. It takes a lot of time, and it's very intensive with the amount of information that both planning and zoning commissioners have to review, as well as city council before a meeting.
Then what occurs after the action by city council at this level?
So should city council approve a zone map amendment, then the written decision is written, the minutes are completed by the clerk, and an ordinance is created, memorializing the change in the comprehensive plan and the change in the zone map. And then those have to be published in summary. And then those changes get sent off to a variety of people that need those as part of their public agencies and what have you. And then it becomes, and then I actually change the zone map. Someday we're going to print a new one. Actually change the zone map so that it changes on that as well. And then it becomes an allowed use. And so then they can develop in accordance with the zone that it is at that time. So in accordance with the design standards in Title 11.
And then do you stay within the process, or they just go forward and say, this is what we're going to build? How many other decision-making points are there for an individual in this case?
So they will have to go back to their minor subdivision and decide if they're going to have a private street or a public street in that area that we talked about. It's been noticed to the agencies. We get that, pick up what they were going to do there. And so should they choose to do a private street, then we come back to council and say, hey, we kind of did the history of how they got there, and they would request a private street meeting the design standards of the city and Northern Lakes Fire Protection District for circulation. And you would make a determination whether or not you wanted that to be a private street or a public street. Once that determination is made, then we would finish the staff analysis based on that answer, and we would notice the folks that are within 300 feet, and those folks would be able to, cite their reason for why they may or may not want that they're in favor, neutral, or opposed. We then write a written decision acknowledging every one of the comments that came in and kind of address their comments in the written decision. Then we send out a notice of decision to those same folks that we noticed previously so that they have the opportunity to appeal the decision. Just like you would after any other decision of the council, you have to have that appeal ability. And then should no appeals be received, and there's a process in Title I that you can work through the appeal process, any affected party can appeal a decision meeting the standards that are identified in Title I. If the appeal isn't, if we don't get an appeal, then we write a memorandum of understanding that works out to be like 100 pages plus or minus when it's all done. It includes the legal description, the preliminary plat, the written decision, which includes the staff review and a minor subdivision, so it's a lot of information. And it includes an exhibit, which is the construction improvement agreement for the subdivision. And that is signed by the applicant, the planner, and the community development director, and then recorded against the property. So for one project that doesn't have multiple phases, they then have 2 years to complete the construction of that minor subdivision and request preliminary plat.
Thank you.
And then they can apply for building permits.
We have focused a lot of efforts on expanding our commercial and industrial footprint within the city to be able to balance tax levels. The individual bought this land knowing that it was commercial and the limits associated with that. From an interest standpoint, what has the interest been with respect to commercial or industrial on that property?
Properties, most everybody that we have heard from has had a struggle with trying to figure out how to develop this piece of property because of its narrow road width to Government Way and its lack of road frontage to attract folks back into that piece of property. So most folks have been trying to figure out how to utilize it for that back end as more of a residential use, whether it was a mixed use, which they had tried but couldn't figure out how to get a footprint that made any sense or that it could pencil to make that work, and really have moved more toward the mixed residential.
Any other
We've seen
questions
lots and
for
lots of
Don?
different footprints on this property.
Oh, I thought this was a great one because we've tried to, I personally have worked hard to bring businesses to that piece of property. So, any other questions or comments for Donna? Kaylin, we need to, so this is a two-step process. Donna, could you go to that slide, please? Go ahead.
Yeah, she'll bring back the slide back up, Mayor, here.
Do we get to hear from the applicant in this process?
We've limited it to just the public meeting item. Jeremy Terzulli is here, he presented at Planning and Zoning. It would be limited to the record before you. It's not a public hearing.
Okay, so I do have some questions since I don't get to ask the applicant, if that's okay.
Oh, I'm glad you do, yes.
Okay. One of the standards for approval, and I think you had it as listed as number 2, it says where such conditions are required to ensure that proposed uses of the area are consistent with community needs and its public health, safety, and general welfare. So how does the rezoning of this property, how does that help with public health, safety, and general welfare?
That would be something that you guys would have to deliberate upon.
But is that, I mean, that's something you consider when you look at a property, that whether it should be considered is whether so, and where I'm going with this is I just want to read a couple of real short statements. Our sheriff, Bob Norris, nice guy. We had a town hall, well, we didn't have a town hall meeting outside here, but.
I don't think they're in the, are they in the record?
What's that?
For this specific?
Is it, well, I want to make what their statement is about public safety. And it said, Hayden must increase public safety spending to about 1.8 million and add approximately 12 deputies to provide the level of service the sheriff says is necessary. And then we all know about the Northern Lakes Fire District, that there was an attempt to pass a $2 million levy, and Chief Riley, nice guy, he said Tuesday if it had passed, would improve response time and allowed 5 firefighters to keep up with increasing number of service calls. So we're behind with public safety and with fire responses. And my question is, how does this, by adding 24 houses and maybe 75 people, to me, we go backwards with that. And we now have to add into the problem of we can't keep up with the road costs with the additional traffic. And we've all heard from our city council members that growth does not pay for itself. So my concern is that this does not help our public safety and welfare of our community or our neighborhood. It makes the problem worse. And that's my concern with this. Going from commercial to residential, we know commercial, according to what the mayor has said, is that for every dollar we collect in taxes, we put out maybe 89 cents in public city municipal services, but in residential, for every dollar we collect, we put out about $1.08, so we go backwards. So with this change of this zoning, we go backwards. And I have a problem with that.
Donna,
Are you, any other questions?
Well, no, I wanted to make that point because how do we afford to pay for where we're at now? We can't afford to fix it now. How do we do it in the future? And we just let the floodgate flow. And no one has an answer. So do we keep going?
Thank you. Council President Satterfield.
Donna, could you state again what's allowed in commercial?
There are a list of uses that are allowed in commercial. All of them are non-residential. So in the commercial zone, there is no residential uses, multifamily or single-family, detached or attached uses that are allowed in commercial. So lots of choices in commercial.
So people can't live there.
Correct.
But if we have businesses there, depending on the business, whatever, we have no idea what the traffic density will be. And if I'm not mistaken, it wasn't that long ago that, was it Melissa who told us that commercial creates far more traffic than...
There was a study done, I'm not sure where but specific to this project, there's no traffic information
Yeah,
that's been provided with respect to this.
yeah. Anyway, thank you, Donna.
Donna, so council, I'm just being hypothetical because council could do whatever council wants to do, but council can council approve a mixed residential with a density of 6? Can council, I'm just, you had that look, I'm just asking for options with respect to standards of approval. Number 2, I want to know what conditions can council impose?
Well, we could do probably do a zone development agreement limiting to a certain level in mixed residential, because we allow single family, duplexes and triplexes.
Townhomes.
And then it would have to be, I'm trying to think, I don't know off the top of my head, our design standards, or I mean, our setbacks of what that is, square footage, because that comes into play too, about how many they could obviously achieve, because there's still a, square footage they would have to meet. I'm assuming obviously they can do 14 twin homes just because of the lot size, because it's 3.5 acres. And the layout they're talking about.
Okay.
I guess I'm thinking because a zoning development agreement is a way to limit it to a specific use or kind of a bumpers, right, on the number of uses allowed in a zone. Meaning it's not all encompassing, it's not all the uses that are ever allowed. That's what a zoning development agreement would be.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's an avenue that could be considered for saying instead of all the uses that would be allowed, should we change a zone, be subject to a zoning development agreement, which would be set at X number of units or whatever the use is going to be. Yep.
Council, it is now in your hands. Unless, I'm sorry, are there any other comments or questions? Okay. That's this slide we need.
The findings of the Planning and Zoning Commission are at least when you download just this specific agenda item, are on page 66 of 68. On page 4 of the written recommendation, and kind of discuss all of the findings. There are 5 of them that the Planning and Zoning Commission went through about the standards being met, homeownership opportunities, and kind of just the concern for having additional, the city not having additional housing, and the border to mixed residential to the east and north were already residential uses from Government Way. It was similar in line to the proximity of duplexes that already exist. Vice Chair Davis specifically noted the kind of the down zone opportunity here, just because of what other uses are entailed in commercial. A couple of these examples were tattoo parlors and bars, certainly. So just the difference in uses of what that could be allowed us today with twin homes versus kind of any amount of options that we could have for commercial today in the traffic on Government. Just those were their findings as they deliberated.
We did. Commercial gave them a lot of different options.
Yes.
Some okay. I mean, like I said, there were good. We need a motion to either approve with conditions, or deny the future land use map amendment from mixed use to mixed residential, which to me seems, can I say foolish, because we don't have anything mixed use anyway, but I understand your legal interpretation.
Just what the designation of the future land use map is. It doesn't zone the property, it just designates it in the future land use map. So that we're not approving a zone that's not in accordance with what our future land use map. That's the request.
Thank you.
I make a motion to approve the future land use map amendment from mixed use to mixed residential.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember DeLange?
Yes.
Councilmember Roeder?
No.
Council President Satterfield?
Yes.
And Councilmember Panabaker?
Yes.
Thank you. Donna, you're on then. Oh, no, we're not done. No, my fault.
One more.
I know. Do we have a motion to approve with conditions, or deny the zone map amendment request from commercial to mixed residential?
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
I'm sorry, you can't say so moved, because I said, do I have a motion to approve with conditions, or deny? So you need to tell me what your motion is.
My motion is to approve with any conditions set forth by planning and zoning,
Of which there were none.
which there were none, so as is.
So your motion is to approve zone map amendment request from commercial to mixed residential?
Yes.
Is that, okay. Do we have a second?
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Please.
So would this be the time if we wanted to put conditions to lower the density?
I
I
suppose.
think you'd have to do a zone development agreement. I think you'd have to condition it on a zoning development agreement that limits the number of what can be allowed on the property.
I would support the change if the density was lowered.
So we need something specific because our code is allowing these 14 twin homes on the whole property because it's 3.5 acres. So I don't have our code in front of me about what our setback, what our lot sizes are. But 14 twin homes meet our code standards today for mixed residential. So I'm not trying to be difficult. I just want us to have a set standard of.
And for public, that's not 14 per acre, that's 14 for the
Right,
private.
yeah, I don't know what the, I don't know if it's like 7,000 square foot, I don't know.
3.5 acres, 3.6.
Yeah, but it's 3.5 acres, so it's 14 twin homes for 28 units on 3.5 acres. So I think we need to talk about what we're going to limit the zone development agreement to do when that's allowed by our code today.
Speaking for myself, I would prefer to limit it to 6.
So 6 townhomes, so 12 units a whole.
Pardon?
So 6
per acre.
6 per acre, is that what you're
We
saying?
need clarification.
Yeah,
Yes, 6 per acre.
instead of 7 now?
It says 6 to 8 in the mixed residential, and 3.5 acres times 8 is 28 dwelling units. So it's allowed by the current code.
I just think it's arbitrary, it's allowed by the code, so we need to talk about, I think I would advise that we put, some standards that are, or there's reasons they're met here for that, because they are meeting that by what our current number is allowed.
And they still have to meet all building setbacks, all code envelopes. All the design standards still have to be met.
And this has nothing to do with future land use map that was already approved. This is existing zone map amendment request with respect to commercial to mixed residential. Council can make any recommendations or motions that they would like. Mixed residential allows 6 to 8, which is interesting because that's a 33% difference. And so if in fact Councilmember DeLange's request, and again, we have a motion, so there's discussion, but for clarification, 6 are approved within mixed residential. Is this the time to limit the 6? Is that a condition that can be followed, or will there be additional work that needs to be done by the applicant and staff to ensure that the 6 meets all the standards associated with that zoning request?
Well, yeah, the zoning development agreement will be back in front of you for sign off, as the applicant would have to as well.
Okay, you're where we are.
Right.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. We've had in discussion a desire for conditions. The conditions were not a part of the motion, but the density issue associated with 6 to 8 is consistent with mixed residential. Is that where we are?
Yep. Yeah, that's what I understand this to be. So the applicant has no, so it's just a zone change, right? But the applicant is proposing the 8. What I'm hearing from you, Councilmember DeLange, is that you want to limit their maximum to 6.
In that property only. This would be consistent with that property only.
So
We're
just
premature. Go
as
ahead.
a matter of interest, 6 gets you to 21, and if they're doing twin homes, that's an odd number. So I would respectfully request that if you're going to limit density, that you would roll it up to 22 or down to, that would be my goal.
Can't have 21.
It's still
twin
between
homes.
6 and 8. If it's
Is that still consistent with the motion that's on the table?
Well, that's what Dawn is wanting, some revision on.
Clarification.
Right, because 6 gets you to an odd number. Twin homes, we need 2. So It just needs to be something that makes sense for the city and staff can implement and so can the applicant.
Does the motion,
Yeah.
is that consistent with, can those restrictions be put into play based upon that motion?
So no, I think the motion's got to be amended because that's what
That's why-
we're in discussion here, but yeah. So I think-
So we're following that. We still have discussion, so we have to go through the process correctly, but I wanted to make sure that we knew. Okay. There's been no amended, we have a motion and a second. We have had discussion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please. Abby?
Councilmember DeLang?
No.
Councilmember Roder?
No.
Councilmember Panabaker?
Yes.
Council President Satterfield?
Yes.
And Mayor Griffiths?
Yes.
Can I say something?
Please. I guess, Ken, it's fine, it's after the vote?
No, it's
with
not,
respect
it's
to
nothing
that?
to do with this, actually.
Or we can
It's just
wait.
We
something that-
can, we
Till
can
your
table
roundtable?
that. Go ahead. What?
Gonna say, if you want to wait till your roundtable,
Let's wait till roundtable.
so we can just move on to the next item.
Okay.
Or, that, you run the meeting, Mayor, but that's
We're
what I would
consistent,
suggest.
no, that's where we're going. 4D, action item PZE 21-0197 Doris Zone Map Amendment.
So this is the Doris Zone Map Amendment. It's PZE 210197. Just to give the council some background, and it again shows in your staff review as well. In April of 2021, the applicant came forward with a private road request that the city council approved. In May of 2021, those citywide zone map amendment letters went out. And then in August of 2021, the applicant requested a minor subdivision and did receive preliminary plat approval. They've kind of put that on hold, again, trying to figure out what the city was doing. And then because the city chose to kind of bring these in on a case-by-case basis, that's what they're doing. So the existing conditions are one lot, just under an acre. Accessory structures are on the site. There was an existing house, mobile home on the site that was kind of removed in the dead of night. That's how it left there. One day it was there, and the next day it was gone. And then in August of 2021, we received a request for a zone map amendment from single-family residential R1 to mixed residential. This is the project site. The development team is Connie Kruger from Johnson Surveying, and the owner is Doris Development LLC, and both are in the audience tonight. So the project is proposed to be here, and the entrance point with the private road that the city council approved has an ingress egress off of Orchard, and is a kind of a T-shaped hammerhead at the end. It's a private road tracked, but because it's a private road, it doesn't have parking on the road itself. So it needed to have some place to put parking, and that's kind of in the T in the back. You saw that in your staff reviews. The neighboring properties are, this is Tamarindo. It's got like 3 subdivisions that have built on the ends of those back to back. And this is Macy Loop that's here. And then 2 more subdivisions that are south of the project site. So going back to those same 4 standards of approval, staff did not believe additional studies or plans are necessary. The request is to go to mixed residential, and the future land use map shows it as mixed residential, so they were all pretty much studied through the Imagine Hayden process. The council may impose those conditions. We've talked about that standard to ensure its public health, safety, and general welfare. The applicant's narrative identified that the amendment is consistent with community needs and its public health, safety, and general welfare. And the proposed amendments are in accordance with the future land use map, goals, and policies found in the comprehensive plan. Or it's all 3 of those parts. So the amendment to the zoning map and zone text shall be in accordance with the future land use map, and again, the goals and the policies found in the Hayden Comprehensive Plan. It is kind of in the middle of an entire area that is mixed residential on the future land use map. We acknowledge the fact that much of the land that is around it is developed in one way or another, and that is not what is looking for that zone map amendment. Those zones would exist as they are today. So those are the goals and policies. There's like 6 goals that address this, and 4 policies that kind of talk to this kind of a zone map amendment to go from what it is today to a different zone map. Again, all of the goals and policies and actions were part of the appendix in the staff review that is part of your packet. So an amendment to the zone map and zone text shall align with the zone district's purpose and intent. So single-family residential provides for the classic Hayden neighborhood where single-family homes on smaller lots are permitted, and accessory dwelling units are permitted, but 2-family dwellings are not. Whereas mixed residential provides for a range of residential structures, including single-family, 2-family, and 3-family dwelling units, as well as accessory dwelling units on those individual lots, only if they can make those design standards work. So here it is on the zone map as it exists. Residential single-family or single-family residential, I always do that kind of backwards. In the old code, since we're still doing the old code, new code conversation, in the old code allowed for 2-family dwellings or duplexes by conditional use permit. So that's how Wyoming Estates First Edition that we talked about in the last public hearing was allowed to put in duplexes as part of a conditional use permit as part of their subdivision. But under the new code, it was abundantly clear through Imagine Hayden process that folks that are in single-family, residential single-family wanted to maintain just single-family and didn't want duplexes. So that was removed again from the residential single-family code. So in order to place duplexes, that's the mixed residential code, and you could have duplexes or townhomes, two homes, twin homes construction. Hence why the request from single-family residential to mixed residential. Still single-family dwellings, just different, just attached building structure versus detached. Anyway, so it's a large lot and an undeveloped lot, and it is surrounded by platted subdivisions. So as part of the minor subdivision process, will serve letters were received for both sewer and water as part of the minor subdivision. Again, dry utilities shall be installed underground as part of any future development. Dedications of right-of-way will occur at the time of final plat. And that turnaround and parking provided meeting the Northern Lakes Fire Protection District and city requirements for that private street. Public agencies and public comments. Hayden Lake Irrigation District had no additional comments. Coeur d'Alene Airport had no comments. IDEQ had comments related to the development. And then public comments that were attached to the memo to the commission and subsequently to the memo that you received included 117 in opposition and 1 in support. And public comments at the public hearing, there were 4 comments in opposition. So that's kind of the neighborhood as a whole, as a surrounding, and this is one of those kind of infill lots. And then if you break down those neighborhoods and the kind of the lot size conversation, Cody's Place, Crab Apple Court, and I can just let you read those. Those are almost entirely single family. There are a couple of residential multifamily ones with average lot sizes that are 1/5 of an acre.
Donna, are there
of an
any
acre.
multifamily in either of those 2 estates that are residential multifamily? Or is it simply a zone designation that doesn't exist? Are there?
There are no multifamily in those 2 that
So
have
D-Court
residential.
is all single family,
All single family.
residential, as is Lauren Estates?
Correct.
And that's what we were trying to clean up before. Okay. So in essence, all zone designations surrounding the property, though the zoning might be residential, multifamily with 2 of them, there are no multifamily on either of those.
Correct.
So it's all single family. Thank you.
So the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the zone map amendment request from single-family residential, R1, to mixed residential, MR. Keeping in mind, again, that mixed residential is single-family dwellings. Part of those homes are attached, but they're still single-family. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the commission voted 3 in favor and 2 opposed to the request, and the motion passed. And those are the standards of approval. And the city council may approve with conditions, or deny the zone map amendment request from R1 to mixed residential.
Can you share what the intent is of that property? Or is that not appropriate? Caitlin? I'm not trying to put
Yeah,
words.
no, I mean, if she's aware of a plan, that you've had the private road.
And the private road, when the council
Were you
approved the
already-
private road, it was for 8. It was for 8 residential dwelling units.
Right.
That was part of the memo that was presented to council at that time.
On the 1 acre?
On the 1 acre, that's correct.
I'm sorry, on the
9.97.
0.997.
On the 1 acre, correct.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Donna?
I have some.
Please.
Let somebody else go first, though, if they like.
No, it's okay, you spoke up.
All right. I'm looking at page 4 of 10, which is the agencies with jurisdiction, and I'm looking for clarification. And it's in the middle of the page, and it says the fire district is Northern Lakes. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, but on the left side of that it says that emergency, medical, and general emergency response will be provided by Cooney County Emergency. I didn't know that they divided that up. I think, isn't it that the fire department provides ambulance and fire protection? Or is there a crossover here where we have both?
There is.
Go ahead, if you know the answer. Is there a
Well,
crossover?
the EMS services are in conjunction with the fire districts and all that, but they're separate from the fire department in that respect.
Yeah, but Councilmember Roeder did something, as I read it, it was like, I didn't ever notice that distinction before. Is that your?
Yeah,
I mean, I've seen Northern Lakes forever, but I've never noticed that
I'm just wondering, do we
distinction.
have 2 taxing districts
No, that's
overlapping
what I was-
and getting money from us, or is it separate, or?
And I think you were saying then those are in partnership. They just have not been identified as
Yeah.
separate before.
Okay.
Is that your question? I don't mean to.
Yeah,
Because I'd never
I just want a
noticed either.
clarification on that. I'd like to know how.
Okay.
And then I think you already pointed this out, that it really is glaring that there was 122 people that opposed this. And planning and zoning saw that information, I read it, and one that supported it. And to me, that is just, it's overwhelming that there's so much opposition to it. And then there was a letter by Arthur Anderson, who's in this packet that you included. And this hit home for me. It said that all the homes around this property are single-family homes. The proposed multi-unit dwellings do not fit into the character of the neighborhood or the stated goals of the city's comprehensive plan to preserve, protect, strengthen the vitality and stability of existing neighborhoods. And then there's a statement in here that I think Donna made that, it says that you added the lot in question would be sitting in a sea of single-family residences. And that's on page 5 of 17. So to me, we seem like, okay, let's just put this new higher density residential development in a bunch of single-family homes. And it doesn't preserve that neighborhood. To me, it takes away from the neighborhood. We're going from R1 to, we can only have one. R1 is like 4 or 5 maybe residents per acre, and maybe that's what we get, but we're getting 8. residential units, that it looks like what's being proposed. So we're going to a higher density. Then there was also a letter from Harold Appel. I don't know if he's in here, but, and I want to know if this is true or not. He's opposed to this because it says Orchard is a narrow street with no sidewalks, shoulders, or even a center line at the area of the proposed multi-residential lot. Is that true?
Orchard is,
Orchard does not have sidewalks.
no.
So the concern here is, isn't that a safety issue for, when you don't have sidewalks, you don't have wide streets, and how's that going to be mitigated by this developer? It's not going to help it. So it goes back to, you know, our sheriff says we need 12 more deputies, and our fire chief in Northern Lake says we need $2 million because they have to add 12 more ambulance and firefighters and another fire station. It just adds more people, that adds more cost to our city, and we can't pay for it. So why are we doing it?
Councilmember Roeder, on at least the first half of the comment, I made a comment on similar concerns at the planning and zoning meeting. It's in the minutes and the written decision about kind of the competing interests that we find in the comprehensive plan and the policies, and, you know, just as the guiding document, and kind of the discussion and the deliberation that can happen over the existing neighborhood. I think that's goal number 5 of our comp plan. Donna, thank you. About wanting to preserve existing spaces, and whether or not this approval is in line with that. My point to planning and zoning being kind of what you're bringing up, right, of looking at the request, and is it in line with not only what we've, you know, planned for in the future, but what's there today, what are the surrounding uses, and kind of trying to tell them those are the analysis, you know, that's important, and they can consider that. That, you know, I didn't offer a yes or no to either of that, because that's a weighing factor, right? But just to answer the first part of your statement, you know, that was discussed at planning and zoning and kind of that deliberation, and it should be discussed here, but that is a factor.
It can be, and probably should be,
Yeah,
Caitlin.
absolutely.
So for clarification, that was something that was discussed within the P and Z
Yeah, it's in the minutes,
information.
it's in the-
That's why it's a very fair thing that,
part of the record.
that's why I brought up the 2
Yep.
areas that are, even though they are multifamily in nature, they are truly single family.
Yeah.
There's no multifamily that exists in any of those surrounding developments.
Right, and I was just trying to follow up on bringing that in the closed and discussing that at planning and zoning, and always a deciding factor for that commission as well as city council to weigh that and to consider, like, well, yeah, we've got that planned. What exists there today? You know, what are the surrounding uses, and does that make sense?
Well, this to me is a perfect example of 112 people that said no, one person supports it. The city is not listening to the people. And when you do not listen to the people, who's running the city? Are the citizens, or who's running it? That's a lot of people to say no. Why are we doing that? Why are we allowing that? I have a problem with it.
It's important too to know that, I mean, we talk about all that, but planning and zoning was in, this was if you listen to and read this.
I think it took 3 motions.
It was, yeah, and so
There's a lot of
it was
debate on this
consistent
issue.
with that discussion and concern.
Yep, it was. There's a
So-
lot of competing.
They're not an elected board.
No,
I'm just saying-
no.
Accountability
I
there.
know.
That's part of the problem.
Councilmember Roeder, I was supporting your
I'm just saying.
comment.
I know, I'm venting a little because this is the exact kind of thing why people are fed up with what's going on. And when are we going to say no? I'm not saying shut it down, but let's slow it up. And be reasonable about it. I think Ed coined it responsible growth.
Any more comments? Councilmember Roeder.
Nope, that's it.
Any comments by any member of the council? Councilmember Delaney.
in this case, there are two properties that, even though they're zoned, currently zoned multi, am I getting this right, Donna?
I don't know which properties you're talking about.
Oh,
The list, the multifamily,
yeah,
the one that you're talking about? So if you could go back to that list, it doesn't matter, but that's
So-
what you were referring to?
yes, so there are a couple of properties that are zoned multifamily, even though they're single-family residential.
That.
And because that area is single-family residential, to me, it doesn't make sense to change the zoning. I think it needs to remain single-family residential because that's pretty much that whole area. And also, there was an awful lot of opposition. And so in this case, I would not support the zone change.
Thank you. And we don't have to get into why those were residential multifamily and why council, why we've worked really hard to get those back to single family, but it had, I don't know that it's necessary to go into that, so that's fair. Any other comments from any member of the council? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve with conditions, or deny this request? Just a minute to make sure that we are set. Do we have a motion to approve with conditions, or deny the zone map amendment request from single-family residential to mixed residential?
I'd like to make a motion, if I may.
Please.
My motion is to deny the zone map amendment request from the single-family resident R1 to mixed residential.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Council President Satterfield,
Yes.
Councilmember Panabaker,
Yes.
Councilmember DeLang,
Yes.
and Councilmember Roder.
Yes.
So the motion was to deny. The motion was unanimous. 5, reports, city administrator report and calendar review.
We started to talk about it, and I think everybody's invited. This Thursday is Veterans Day, and Hayden, we do, I think, a nice job. Susie's not in here, but her team and the Veterans Commission, they put on a really nice Veterans Day celebration. That's going to be at 11 o'clock this Thursday, just out here, out back, rain or shine. And so we'd like to see everybody there.
And it's at 11?
It's at 11 a.m. on the 11th. So.
Okay. And there's no rain anticipated?
You can finish yours first.
Also, we're talking about, we're looking for a day to do an orientation for new council members, and so I just throw that out there. It's that first weekend in December, so we were talking about December 1st at 3 p.m. So we'll check with you and finalize and make sure everybody can do that. December 8th, staff, mayor, and council, that's annual. We're going to try and do the Christmas dinner. And we have Stancraft, the hangar reserved. So there's plenty of space, it's wide open, and have a local business cater, Radici's. Is our plan to do that. It'll be from 5:30 to 7:30, and you should have received an email to sign up for that. Just a report, I think Ellen was here, oh, he is here. Just to let you know, in talking with them, getting reports, we talk about being ready to snowplow. We could, we can off and on, we've seen that we may get some snow. So we have mag chloride. I think the only thing we're waiting on, we have 4 teams of 4 graders and plows that work in tandem, and we're waiting for 2 additional graders that we lease, and I think we're close to having those, Wade said, but we have the equipment, the de-icers all ready to go. So they've been getting the equipment already, so I appreciate that. And I think Tuesday, we always do a coordinating meeting just to remind everybody of their routes and for folks.
How's our berm knocker downers? I know that that's not the technical word. My back's still sore, so.
The gates?
The gates.
They are working, but people, when we get heavy and a lot of snow, they don't work real well. And so people need to know if we get a big storm, then you plan on having berms. They try to do the best they can. If they can use the gates to alleviate that, they will. They have an order of how we do the streets as far as hitting the main arterials and the main streets first, and then they work into the cul-de-sacs and other streets. And so I think our crews, Alan and our streets folk, they do some of the best plowing in the area. And so anyways, just to let you know as a report,
Alan,
we're ready to go.
And for that, I think it's important. I know that we don't try to benchmark, we just try to serve, but we're days ahead, and it's not our competition, but our roads are clean and other cities are not. So thank you to you and your team. Is that a better way to say it? Okay.
Or that we are better, I don't know.
We are.
Just say it. No.
So it's been really nice.
Truly dedicated individuals to the community. They take pride. They take pride every day in trying to do a great job. Sometimes we fall short of some individuals' desires, but we try our best.
You know, the only time was when it was the really wet snow. The gates couldn't handle it, so we need to let all city council members know that get dressed appropriately, and if the berms are really high, get a shovel.
Get ready.
Or get your husband to get a shovel.
The last thing I'll mention is November 23rd is the Association of Idaho City Training that they're doing annually, and so I think a few of you have signed up for
Sandy
that.
and Ed, you've gotten your information on that? Okay.
That's usually a really good training, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a reminder from.
Oh, that's where I was going to go. Hayden Lights before we go?
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
we can mention that.
When is that?
It's December 3rd and 4th.
When's the
Friday
parade?
and Saturday night. The parade is Saturday, starts at 5.
And that would,
and in conjunction this year, I'll mention, this is kind of cool. So the Chamber is partnering for the first annual European market. So the European market's going to be on the Friday. That's why I mentioned.
okay. And the parade's Saturday?
The parade is Saturday, and then the European market will still be there that night, and we'll do a lighting of the tree and all of that after the parade on Saturday night. So
Okay.
I'll just be here in McIntyre Park. So those are the fun things. Those are the things that, you know, that give you that small town feel when you guys talk about small town feel. The parade's really fun, so.
Thank you.
We were unable to do it the same way last year, but we plan on doing it long government way here. So.
Okay.
Just one thing for me, Mayor and Council, and I probably sound like a broken record at this point, but just as we continue to get direct public comment to all of you, and I can't stop that, just a reminder on the quasi judicial hearings, no conflicts of interest, no ex parte communication, and statements that exude bias will require recusal. We'll continue to remind that, but I just want everybody to, as a friendly reminder, as we continue to have public hearings, and we always will.
Please don't make it friendly. This is
That's at the
serious.
forefront.
Yeah.
And so applicants are entitled to a fair hearing, and that's part of that due process requirement. So I just wanted to mention that, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more from me on it, but just as another reminder.
It passed, I mean, using tonight as an example, it was unanimous. So if an individual, but we have to be really careful if we have made public comment or either from here or somewhere else with respect to any of our biases. People in Hayden deserve an unbiased quasi-judicial process. And we need to be able to provide that, so.
And we appreciate the public comment. I know you receive a lot of it from your constituents, so it's not that we don't appreciate that. I just want to remind you of the proper process. So
Thank you.
that's all I have. Thank you.
comments from any member of the council. Councilmember Panhandle, this is your chance.
I haven't got many left, so I just like to inject a little common sense into what we do here on both sides. Because we've had some conversation here about some of this stuff. It is not conducive to life, safety, or any of this kind of stuff. The roads are overtaxed and all that. We all know that. We all know that's part of it. When we do these things, we've always tried to make new growth pay for itself. When has it ever done that? I don't remember it ever doing that. So if we predicated everything we do on the fact that new growth needs to pay for itself, then we would not have been able to build for the last 30 years here. And if we didn't build here, and if we didn't bite the bullet and try to make it work and do a lot, what are you shaking your head for?
I disagree with you.
That's fine. I'm going to bring you up in a minute here because it's important. And it's not derogatory.
It's okay.
It's just you got to say it. We've always tried to make new growth pay for itself, but we haven't stopped it, and because of that. You mentioned just a little bit earlier about when you lived down in California, and we've heard this hundreds and hundreds of times, why people have left, and we understand that, by the way, and we're not hostile about it either, because of things that happened. But my question to you would be, if the growth was so offensive down there, when the orange groves and all that were all chopped up and it changed your way of life, why didn't people stop it then? And then when you moved up to Northern California, and you knew, you were aware of it because it happened to you already, why didn't you stop that then? And what is it?
Different than public debate, though. This would be just your comments.
What's that?
This wouldn't be a public debate time. This is simply your comments. So that's what I mean. So you have the floor to make whatever comments. It's just the back and forth.
Okay.
We don't do.
I'm not knocking him, because we understand. It's funny, because we do understand what people are up against here. And we've tried to accommodate over the years people moving in here, even though it was difficult for us to accommodate the growth. It was difficult for us to provide the schools and the fire protection and the roads and all that stuff. We did it anyway. We never told people no. But if we predicated everything we did on whether it was adequate funding or whether it was safe or anything like that, when should we have stopped the growth? Should we have done it 30 years ago? If that's the case, darn few people that are here today would even be talking about it because they wouldn't be here. Now, you said you moved to Northern California to get away from what was going on down there. I understand that, and I do, for sure. Why didn't the people, if they were already aware of what was going on with excessive growth and all that, why didn't they stop it? And will you please?
No, this is just hypothetical. This isn't directed to any member.
So when you moved here, okay, to a place that we busted our tails for many years to make a desirable place to live. But when we started doing that, there were 2,000 people here. Now we've got 15, 16,000 people here, so it's crowded. We got a lot of traffic we don't like and all this kind of stuff. When it couldn't be done in California by people that were way ahead of us as far as the curve on who and how to handle growth and do that kind of stuff, what is it you expect us to do to stop the growth?
Listen to the people.
Huh?
No, this isn't a hypothetical question, not directed to any member of the audience with that comment. So
we don't have the ability to tell people they can't move here. And then we never had the desire. One of the things, if I had my desires to live over, I would change the attitudes of some of the people that come in here. I've been here my whole life. And we've always been receptive to people, and we've always tried to be friendly. And what do? We get the crap beat out of us all the time by people that don't like the way we do business. And all we've ever done is try to do the right thing. And it doesn't matter whether you like me, because I've only got a few more weeks here. You've made clear what you think. So that's okay. Thank you.
Any other comments from member of the council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I just have a brief Association of Idaho Cities update. Before the meeting, I did give Mayor and Council a list of AIC new listserv opportunities, and some of you may have already seen this email, but the board changed the structure of the committees. So the legislative committee now is the board, with assistance from council members and mayors. This has the priorities for the rest of this year and next year. There's four categories: personal and public safety, youth and family, city management, and infrastructure. Each category has a staff member with the name and the email address. So if you want to receive information on any of these topics, go ahead and contact the AIC staff member. Let them know which areas you want to be on, and then information will be sent to you on a regular basis.
Can we designate a staff member, for example, for cybersecurity, Michael? Can Michael be a part of
Yes.
that? Michael, I know you can't hear something, but that was, could you, Brett, then?
Yeah, I haven't seen the document, but if I have that, and if there's
I'll be happy to get it to you.
We can make sure the staff is getting those emails in those particular
I would
areas.
like especially cybersecurity, planning, and zoning. If we can, if we can have representatives, however way you think is appropriate.
Yeah, we can.
And I have
we're
extra
okay,
copies I'll give to Brett.
that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I have one. Just to expand a little bit on what Dick brought up. You know, tonight I think was a good example of there is no one answer. Yes is, it's not always going to be yes, not only going to be, always going to be no. You know, both incidences tonight or issues dealt with mixed residential, mixed use, multifamily, all of that. You know, the one off a government way gives the property owner an opportunity to do something with that property. The one over off of Orchard, multiple people came out and said no. I truly hope people realize the difference between the two, why we said yes on one and no on the other. The other thing, I am so proud and happy of those 125 people that spoke out, because we don't see that here. You know, I worked for the county for 28 years of passing multi-million-dollar budgets. We'd have one or two people show up to make comments. And the gentleman that used to be in California kind of chastised us tonight. Well, I ask that you put yourself in our position, in that when a group of people shows up, are they representing all of Hayden? Are they representing part of Hayden? That's probably, in all my years of public life, is probably the hardest question I have to answer. Who do they represent? Are they representing everybody? A small, you know, we got to sort through that. So that's all I have to say.
Do you have a motion to adjourn? No. Yes.
I would like to share an email with everyone. I'm not going to name names, but I think it's important to share. I received this afternoon. After reading voting results, I hope you listened to Hayden voters. You received support from developers. I trust you don't feel you need to pay them back by voting for what they want instead of what the citizens want. As a Hayden council member, your job is to listen to Hayden voters and not people that don't live in our city, that just want to make money in our city. You have the opportunity to leave your service to the city positively. Listen to the voters, please. And here is my response. At no time in the 20 years I have served on Hayden City Council, did I ever vote yes on something because I received support or an endorsement from any individual, builder, company, or any other organization. My vote is not for sale. I am insulted that you would insinuate that. I have always listened to all its citizens, all the time, and with an open mind. I take into consideration all the board packet information, all the public comment, all the staff recommendations, and planning and zoning recommendations when making a decision. I also have to follow state statutes when making decisions. I make the best decision I can for the citizens and city overall. I have done this with every decision, but I cannot always make everyone happy. What you may not understand is that I must also be unbiased towards private property rights. I have to protect private property rights as well as the rights of citizens. It's extremely difficult, and sometimes citizens feel like they are not being listened to. But I do listen to everyone and take everything into consideration when making a decision. I am leaving public service honorably, as I know that I have always served honestly. I will be listening to the citizens tonight, as I always do, but I have to make the best decision I can after I take everything into consideration, as I stated above. Thank you, Mayor.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, Jerry.